čujete?
Da.
Ok, govorit ću i na srpskom i na hrvatskom. Veliko mi je zadovoljstvo da najavim svog prijatelja Tomasa iz države Kerale na jugu Indije, koja ima jednu specifičnu tradiciju zato što je većinski hrišćanska, a politički komunistička dugo vremena. Tako da je jedna malo neobična priča kad zamišljate Indiju. Mi se dugo znamo i dugo znam za njegove planove kao izdavač. On je, smo se po raznim međunarodnim sajmovima i on ima vrlo dobar ukus kao se zove biranju knjiga koje izdaje i što bi se reklo srce na pravo mesto, što bez ukusa ne bi koristio. Veliko mi je zadovoljstvo da je on naš gost u divnom ambijentu Narodne biblioteke Srbije i imat ćemo priliku da razgovaramo sa njim i njegovim planovima, Biljana će ga pitati, to ćemo prevoditi, and I will just briefly translate this in English, and it's my great pleasure to greet my old friend Tomas here, and then I just said that Kerala has an interesting tradition as both Christian state, not only Christian, because there is nothing like that, but with a Christian presence, and also communist politics, which is an interesting, probably an example that Christianity is connected with communism, that there is some connection there, and it's a great pleasure to greet you here. I have long known for your plans to start with more and more with publishing projects, and I was praising your taste and said that you have the heart on the right side, but which doesn't help if you don't have taste. And this morning we are going to talk more in detail about what you do and generally publishing in India and the kind of cultural trends in India and globally as you see.
For his opening speech, I thank Director Vladimir Pištalo. Today's program is entitled Literature, Publishing and Culture, and as we have heard, Tomas Valiјaparakat Черијан, an Indian publisher, is our special guest today, and we are delighted to have him. And Mr. Tomas is one of 11 international publishers who took part in the International Literature Festival Fellowship Novi Sad.
Zadovoljstvo nam je da ugostimo gospodina Tomasa Valiјaparakatu Čerijana. Tema današnjeg razgovora je književnost, izdavaštvo i kultura.
And Mr. Tomas, my first question relates to both India and publishing. India has a population of 1.5 billion, 23 official languages, and if we say that there are many Indias, what do we mean when we say publishing in this country, your country?
First of all, good morning. Thank you to Mr. Milenom Ďorđiјevиć and Ms. Milena for this wonderful occasion to speak about Indian publishing in general. Basically, I'm a publisher, more than a speaker, so I may not be, speak, length or, coherently about the things which we will be discussing, but you can ask questions, you can clarifications so that we can make it. I prefer to have it something like a discussion forum rather than speaking from the podium. So when coming to the question, of course, India is a what you can say, like it's something like a Europe, like we have 28 states or provinces or states, and each state is formed mostly, mostly based on the languages. So, for example, I am from Kerala, where we have a language called Malayalam, which is spoken by around 35 to 40 million people. That is the population of Malayalam-speaking people. And
Indija ima populacija od 1,5 milijardi ljudi i 23 zvanična jezika. Ukoliko kažemo da postoji puno Indija, šta predstavlja izdavaštvo u ovoj zemlji. Najpre hvala gospodinu Pištavu i gospođici Mileni. Ja sam pre svega izdavač, a ne govornik i zbog toga bih akcent stavio na diskusiju, a ne monolog. Dolazim iz države Kerale. Kao što znate, Indija je ogromna zemlja, ima 28 država i svako od njih ima svoj jezik. Moj jezik je Malajalam, koji ima 35 do 40 miliona govornika.
And basically, India, we have the official language Hindi and English. For official purposes, we have, for example, legal aspects or parliamentary languages, either it is Hindi or English. And we have around 22 other languages which are in the schedule of the Constitution of India, which can be used as official languages for the provinces or states. And when we come to the book market, mostly you will be hearing about the Indian English book market, which sort of boomed, during the end of 1990s, during the 1990s, as you will be discussing about Arundhati Roy winning Booker Prize in the year 1997, immediately, the writers were, Indian writers were recognized. Of course, there were, non-Indian writers like Rajanand or Salman Rushdie or Rohingya Mystery. They were there actually, before Arundhati, but Arundhati, he wrote about the Indian, the novel was set in Malayalam in Kerala.
Zvanični jezici u Indiji su hindi i engleski, to je jezik prava i države, međutim postoje još 22 drugih jezika koji su zvanični jezici pojedinih regija. Međutim, govorit ćemo uglavnom izdavaštvu na engleskom jeziku, jer krajem 90-ih godina kao neki od književnika su Arundhati Roy, koja je 97. godine dobila Bookerovu nagradu.
So we have, we have a set of new writers in India in English, writing, of course, literary as well as popular, popular writers. We have authors like Chetan Bhagat, who sells millions, when the new novel is out, it will be selling in millions, So that kind of market is developed in the last 25 years.
U poslednjih 25 do 30 godina cveta književnost na engleskom i postoje brojni novi pisci koji objavljaju književna dela na engleskom jeziku, kao na primer Chetan Bhagat, čiji su dela prodata milionima primjera.
Then we have the Hindi market, Hindi speakers, it is more than 500 million, that is over 500 million people speaking. Hindi, Hindi is a major market. And then we have, book markets like in Malayalam, Bengali, Marathi, Kannada, and Gujarati, like that. In terms of numbers and vibrancy, these are the languages and publishing which are very active.
Drugi jezik je jezik hindi, njega govori 500 miliona ljudi, tako da to je ogromno tržište, a postoji drugi jezici kao na primjer Malajalam, tu su veoma zastupljeni.
And the interesting aspect about Indian publishing is that this is maybe one of the few markets in the world which is growing, the print market. Like 20% it used to be before the corona, and I don't know. Even during the corona period, there was very active publishing. Immediately after the corona, books came out. But publishing, of course, it was stagnated during that period due to progress results.
Dakle, u periodu koronavirusa malo došlo do stagniranja tržišta, međutim, ovo je ipak tržište koje raste i sada se to nastavilo.
You mentioned that you come from southern India, where certain Christians live, and you speak the Malayalam language. And what are the specific cultural aspects of this part of your country? What are the interests of the public, and what are the publisher interests? Besides the fact that we heard that you have a Hindu market and English market, which is very interesting.
Vi ste iz Južne Indije, gde živi izvestan broj hrišćana, govorite jezik Malayalam. Koje su specifične odlike kulture ovog dela zemlje? Šta interesuje publiku, a šta izdavač?
Yeah, thank you. You know, the way you pronounce the name of my language, you know, very few language...
Malayalam.
Exactly, you know. Very few language speakers would, you know, outside India could spell, you know, that.
I'm proud.
So actually, yeah, because Christian, like we believe that, you know, Saint Thomas came to India, you know, as a can be a myth, or it can be may not be like, you know, early Christians, you know, like we were having trade with the world of that, I mean, what the developed or, you know, the markets of those era. So we believe that, you know, Christianity came at a very early age, you know, into India, into you know, Kerala, especially Kerala, because we were having very good ports in those territories. So we believe Christians, at least from the 4th century, of course, recorded, you know, the 19th century. So small communities, I mean, alienated Christian communities, you know, living there, and then, you know, during the colonization, you know, the Europeans explored, found out that, you know, and they sort of, you know, expanded, you know, the religion, and it is still, I think it is like 20% of the population in Kerala is around 20%, below 24% is Christians.
Ponosna sam što uspete da izgovorite nazivom jezika Malayalam i uspevaju svi sa drugih govornih područja u tome. Hrišćanstvo u Indiji, u ovom delu Indije postoji oko 20% vernika i rano je došlo sa evropskim kolonizatorima i veruje se da je Sveti Toma došao.
So when it comes to back to the publishing, you know, Malayalam is one of the most vibrant language markets in India. We have, you know, basically, of course, you know, novel. You know, the first novel was around 125 years back. You know. Then, you know, before that also we were having very good literature. You know, those days it was mostly poetry. And actually, with the independence, you know, of India in 1947, you know, we in 1950s and 60s, you know, the market, you know, the book market, or, you know, the reading culture sort of bloomed, and a lot of publishers, a lot of writers were writing, you know, mostly, you know, social realism, you know, realistic novels were being written during those periods.
Književnost na jeziku Malayalam predstavlja na najživljih tržišta. Prvi roman objavljen je pre 125 godina, a objavljeno je puno poezije. 1947. godine Indija je stekla nezavisnost i tada je tržište knjiga procvetalo.
And we have, we were talking about feminism, you know, India is, I mean, Kerala is the first place where, you know, feminism came to talk to ballads in the late 1950s. So, another thing happened was, like, you know, with the freedom, winning the freedom, you know, the collective of authors, started publishing in 1945, called SPCS, a cooperative of writers. They started publishing, and eventually, they started a retail network. So it helped a lot of writers to write, and they used to pay royalty like 30% of the retail price, the cover price.
Dakle, govorili smo već o komunizmu koji u Indiju došao 1950. godine, a 1945. godine formirano udruženje pisaca koji su počeli da objavljuju dela i da ih prodaju. I to je podstaklo pisce da što više stvaraju jer su naplaćivali 30% od zarade.
So several authors could, sustain on, with what he get as royalty, from writing. So then later on, with the 60s, we have the modern, writers, modern writing in experimenting with style, theme, all those things, and then novel flourished all through this period, and we have very good short story writers in Malayalam, excellent short story writers, maybe world class. The only thing is that getting short fiction published, is a big issue. Especially in English, because everybody prefers to have full-length fiction. Otherwise, we have excellent short story writers. We have a tradition in that. Most of the novelists, they write, and of course, we have a very literary taste for books. We still, read, and of course, in translations, we read a lot of very non-literary writers from across the world. And of course, now there is a trend of, popular writings. Crime fiction is being, a lot of writers are writing crime and popular fiction as well. Then children literature also we have very good, section.
Dakle, od 60-ih godina savremeni pisci počinju da eksperimentišu sa stilovima i temama. Naročito su popularne kratke priče, imamo odlične pisce ovakvih dela, a takođe su popularni i prevodi dela iz celog sveta. U poslednje vreme takođe su popularni krimi romani, popularne književnosti i književnost za decu.
And of course, all through this period, we were having very good poets. Poetry is also, a very lively, branch of literature.
Poezija je takođe veoma živa grana književnosti, imamo odlične pisce.
Thank you very much, and it is very interesting to send to us this information that you have excellent short story writers.
Yeah.
It's very important. That is. And let's discuss something about literature in the times of crisis. What are the biggest challenges in culture in a changing world, or like I said, in a world of a crisis? And has the crisis affected India in the same way as the Western world, in your opinion?
Sviđa mi se što su spomenuli kratke priče, a sledeće pitanje je koji su najveći izazovi u oblasti kulture u svetu koji se menja ili koji prolazi kroz krizu? Da li ta kriza utiče na Indiju na isti način kao i na zapadni svet?
I think, the digital age, the new age, that has changed the way, how we perceive the world. Now it is a single world. There used to be earlier, compartmentalized, because there was communication was not there. So it is something like, it's the whole the world is, just a unit now. So I think, any change in the culture, any developments in culture will definitely affect us. Maybe not like the way it will be in the West, because the two world wars, that has changed the way, the life in the West or in Europe. But we never used to have that kind of experience. So we are still, in our part of the country or world, we are never, confronted with that kind of catastrophic event, catastrophe. So I feel the changes the way we perceive culture is very different. So how the changes, new changes affecting will be not on that pace. That is what I feel like in the West.
Dakle, digitalno doba promenila je način na koji gledamo na svet. Svet više nije toliko podeljen, jer je lakša komunikacija i sad on funkcioniše kao jedna celina. Kada govorimo o krizama, mi nismo imali katastrofalne događaje kao što su bila 2 svetska rata u Evropi i onda drugačije poimamo kulturu, jer mi smo prošli kroz sve to.
Thank you. Many authors argue that literature will not exist in the form we are familiar with. What is your stance?
Mnogi književnici tvrde da će književnost prestati da postoji u obliku na koji smo navikli. Šta vi mislite o tome?
I don't think so, because literature is, what we say, literature, that will be there anyway, and only the form, how you use it, what is the medium, that is changing. Like, earlier days it was like stone, we used to write on the stone, then it was parchment, leather, and then came, then used to, copy it by hand. And then Gutenberg, came and he revolutionized around 500 years back. Printing was invented. So now, then digital, and now you can read anywhere. You can open the mobile or laptop or tablets. You can read. The only, but the literature, or the content, that is still there, that is still there, that is what I feel like.
Ne mislim da će književnost iščeznuti, uvek će biti tu, samo se menja forma, odnosno mediji. Na početku smo imali pisanje na kamenu, pergamentu, zatim prepisivanje rukom, pa se pojavila štampa, a danas u digitalno doba imamo mobilne uređaje, laptop računare i tablete, ali književnost je još uvek tu.
No, never, exactly. Yeah. That is the Malayalam translation of Fahrenheit 451, which I published last year. Never, it is never going to be. And I feel like, we on a day-to-day life, we are seeing a lot of letters, words. It never used to be, like you need to buy a newspaper. Earlier days, you need to buy a printed book. Now we are every day we are reading a lot more, we are writing a lot more. Like I have an author called Shukur, he is having just preliminary education, primary education, and he's a poet and a novelist. He writes on his mobile and sent to me, and I typeset and then I publish it. So that way, even he put basic, and of course, he is into the social media, he is being read, and that way, he's a bookseller now. He used to sell fish, and now he used to work as a daily wages worker. He was working in, when he was young, and he was working with the stone cutter. He was, then he became a fish seller, and now he sells books. He runs a small book, small tea shop where he invite major writers, like Perumal Murugan, Paul Zakaria, from all over South India. Every month, he does that, and hundreds of people, so that way, it all happened, I feel like, because, of the new media.
Novi mediji su doneli mnogi stvari. Ranije ste morali da odete da kupite novine na trafici ili štampane knjige isključivo, a danas pišemo više. Ispričao vam jednu zanimljivu priču o jednom pesniku koji ima samo osnovno obrazovanje. On piše na mobilnom telefonu i onda mi to pošalje i mi to prekucamo i objavimo. Međutim, njegove dela su veoma čitana i zastupljena na društvenim mrežama, tako da ovaj nekadašnji prodavac ribe, sada poznati pisac koji okuplja mnoge druge izuzetno poznate pisce.
And again, now, it is audiobooks, e-books, now it is audiobooks, live streaming. So in that way, you could, there's not much of an effort now, printed books, reading is, you need time, you need, concentration, you need, solitude, places, light is required, you can listen, while driving or while working in the kitchen, listen to any book and you can come back to it anytime, So that way, I feel like, the literature is expanding, exploring new ways of, entertaining people.
Danas je lakše stvarati i čitati zbog toga što postoje različiti mediji na kojima je to moguće. Ranije vam je da biste stvarali bilo potrebno da se osamite, imate odgovarajuće osvetljenje i koncentraciju, tako da rekao bih da se književnost stvaralo što šire na nove načine.
Thank you. Indian and Serbian book markets are pretty different, but what should be improved in reality in culture and publishing cooperation between Serbia and India?
Yeah, but what I found...
Tržišta srpskog u Srbiji i Indiji su veoma različita i na koji način je moguće naprediti saradnju u oblasti kulture i izdavaštva između Srbije i Indije.
What I found is that, the Serbian market or language, it's somewhat new after the disintegration of Yugoslavia. So this is comparatively a new market of less than 40 years, right? Am I right? Yeah. So, and considering that, you have come up a long way, like in terms of, what I gathered from the meetings with the publishers, the last week in Novi Sad and Belgrade. So you have immediately, you have picked up and, bookstores, then the publishers, specializing in different categories, especially children, literary fiction and non-fiction. So I found, the market is even if it is small, I think, per capita consumption of book is very high here, number of people divided, books published a year divided by number of people, in that way, people are serious into literature, and, what I gathered is, literary publishers, authors are well respected here, and I was very much impressed with the Museum of the Nobel Laureate, Уживо and
Tržište Srbije je novo, nastalo nakon raspada Jugoslavije, tako da imate 40 godina postojanja tržišta i kao što sam čuo od vaših izdavača iz Beograda, za to vreme ste veoma napredovali, imate specijalizovane izdavače koji izdaju književnost za decu, književnost za odrasle i neknjiževna dela. I kod vas su književnici veoma poštovani.
And another thing is, some of the Serbian writers of the earlier period of the classical writers that are published in Malayalam. Now, it is the turn of the contemporary writers to be familiarized with the Malayalam readers, and I'm publishing one of the books from Serbia, one of the major books from Serbia by Vladimir Pistevo. His monumental novel, Pesida, biographical work. I'm doing that, and of course, I'm looking forward to do more books. And of course, I'll be communicating with other language publishers about the market, because we do have a informal network of independent publishers working in different languages, and we do share, ideas, ideas and experience, and that kind of cooperation is there. So where I will be, maybe I'll be briefing them about, I already am in touch with one of the publishers in Tamil about, associating Serbian publishers.
Dakle, na malajalamskom jeziku već su objavljeni neki raniji pisci iz Srbije, a sada je red na savremene, između ostalog gospodina Pištala. Ja sarađujem sa mrežom nezavisnih izdavača na raznim jezicima u Indiji, tako da i njima ću preporučiti neke srpske književnike.
Also, on the other hand, I also want to introduce some of my Malayalam writers, contemporary writers. We have excellent, as I said, about the short story. We have Paul Zakaria, who is one of the best living authors in India. His short fiction is excellent. It should be introduced into Serbian, and of course I'm publishing another, Johnny Miranda. He is a wonderful fiction writer with, we can say we can compare him with, this Petrovareva author, he is a really excellent writer. I forgot the name of the author. So.
S druge strane, želeo bih i da srpskoj publici predstavim delo književnika koji pišu na malajalam jeziku, kao što je, na primjer, Johnny Miranda, koji je odličan pisac.
Thank you. And my last question for today is, what was it like working with Arundhati Roy, the world-famous Indian writer and author of the God of Small Things? Were you surprised when her novel became a global bestseller and in the Western world?
Zanimljivo je vaše iskustvo saradnje sa svetski poznatom autorkom romana Bog malih stvari. Da li ste se iznenadili kada je njen roman postao svetski bestseller?
Actually, Arundhati Roy, she is from my district, my central Kerala, from where I am. So she is from my, because I share with the same kind of socio-political background I have. Actually, she wrote and she was published by a small printer in Delhi, and then Penguin took over it in English. Actually, I worked for the next book, which is a non-fiction book, Power Politics, where I coordinated for the publishing. So basically, I feel like her language, the humor, and also the characters, how the characters, influence the readers. That is what all about. The success of her book, I feel like, it is, and of course, wonderful language. The English language, and the setting of the story, all contributed to the success of the book.
Arundhati Roy je iz mog kraja, tako da delimo društvene i političke okolnosti u kojima smo se nalazili. Njeno delo je zapravo objavljeno na malo štamparija u Delhiju, a ja Dopao mi se jezik, humor, likovi, način na koji oni utiču na čitaoca, način izražavanja i sve to doprinelo popularnosti ovog romana.
Of course, there were writers writing in Malayalam about that setting always, but Arundhati was the first to write in English with that kind of vividness and that kind of intensity about the life and the social the society in Kerala and politics and in the caste system, all those things with that kind of intensity and vividness and clarity, and she coined words, she was writing from as if, for herself, so that kind of course it is partly autobiographical, partly, So she was writing from the heart, and she was not, I feel like she was not very keen about, how the book is going to be. So it was without any inhibitions, she was writing it frankly. So I feel like that is the very intrinsic. So that is, I feel like the success of the book. And of course, nobody expected, that book was published, a small publisher, and the award, the Booker, changed the way, Indian literature, Indian fiction, till then.
Opisala je društvo u Kerali, politiku, klasni sistem, kovala nove reči, pisala za sebe i ovo delo je delom autobiografsko. Nije puno razmišljala o tome kako će biti prihvaćeno kod publike, već je pisala bez inhibicija, a pošto je mali izdavač objavio ovo delo, niko nije očekivao oniki uspeh pa i nagradu.
Mr. Tomas, thank you very much for this conversation. Thank you for being a guest of National Library of Serbia, and somehow I'm not sure that you bring this book with no reason. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Milena, excuse me. I just want to...
Questions, please.
I want to, because Thomas wanted us to talk, and he probably couldn't fit into our the design window of time, and for recording it, but I wanted to mention a couple of things. Excuse me, I will translate myself. Sam ću sebe prevesti samo da first, everybody here loved Arundhati. Not you would expect women, of course, to like her, but not you. And we are planning to bring Arundhati Roy to Belgrade. That has been a long-term plan, but now we are getting more specific about that. And I think that Tomas and us are going to succeed. That's first thing. Second, the Christianity in India didn't come just with European colonizers. Saint Thomas was a friend of Jesus, so like it was at that time, back then. And another thing, it is not really true that India was untouched with World War I and World War II, because it was 1 million Indian soldiers in World War I and 1 million Indian soldiers in World War II. These are masses of people, many of whom gave their lives, as this hero's puppy bears witness to, global issues that are not specifically Indian. That was kind of, the British Empire and stuff. And finally, that's something that is really important for us. Tomas loved our library, and he told me that he is going to write an article in Malayalam about our library, and we are going to put it on our website. That's something that we plan to do, and we also plan cooperation with the system of libraries in Kerala, and this is really a good occasion for me to invite Indian ambassador, and we are going to plan cooperation with the main library in Calcutta. You would think it's Delhi, it's not in Delhi, it is in Calcutta. And finally, before I translate myself, a friend of mine, a liberal from America, used to say that Arundhati Roy, together with Thomas Paine, is the most effective anti-colonial writer ever. So I wanted to ask you, how is the anti-colonial thinking still present in Kerala and in India in general? Let me just translate myself. Kažem da veoma mi je drago da zbog ove saradnje o kojoj govorimo, ona će biti i saradnja prevođenja pisaca s jednog jezika na drugi, što se podrazumeva. Sveti Toma je došao u Indiju u vreme Hrista, nije kasnije sa kolonijalistima. Nije sasvim tačno da je Indija izbjegla katastrofu od Prvog i Drugog svjetskog rata, jer je dala 500 000 vojnika u svakom, prosto Britanska imperija je povela te ljude u rat, kojih se nije mnogo ticao. Onda kažem kako smo jako volili svi arundati roji, ne samo žene kao što biste pretpostavili, nego svi, i kako se nadamo da ćemo je dovesti, i to je nešto o čemu razgovaramo sa Tomasom. Kažem da je Tomas jako volio našu biblioteku, što je stalno se vraćao na to i kaže kako će napisati jedan tekst na malajalam, a mi ćemo ga prevesti i stavit ćemo ga na sajt naše biblioteke. I konačno jedan moj prijatelj u Americi mi je rekao da je Arundhati Roy zajedno sa Tomasom Paineom, koga vi možda ne morate znati, on je bio jedan pisac u vreme Američke revolucije koji je kritikovao britanski imperializam. Da je Arundhati Roy zajedno sa Tomasom Paineom najbolji antikolonijalni pisac ikad. Ja sam također čitao tu drugu knjigu, znate, svi su čitali Bog mali stvari, koje je manje više eseji politički protiv imperializma. I pitao sam Tomasa koliko je antikolonijalni diskurs, koliko je on stil još uvijek prisutan i koliko je snažan u Kerali i u Gostu.
Actually, your question, I'm not, pardon me, I'm not that equipped with the kind of, knowledge to answer you, because it's a very complex question. I read the novel from the literary angle, I liked it and again, I am from the same place where, I won't be, only somebody from the outside could, more explain, how it can be defined as a anti-colonial, because, we are always there, we don't have that perspective, at least for me. So maybe I will come back to you with a more, reasonable answer. Of course, I'll write to you. And then at the moment, I can say this actually. Sorry.
Ovo je vrlo složeno pitanje, nisam toliko kompetentan da odgovorim na njega, jer sam radio na knjizi iz ugla književnosti i nemam tu perspektivu, pa je najbolje da vam odgovor dam nakratno.
Thank you. We wish all of us successful cooperation, good books and publishers, and why not anti-colonial discourse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesmo se izklopili.